Good evening, everybody. Hope you're well. Standing room only this week in the Horsell household as I attempt to move house. Boxes everywhere. That also probably explains my unironed shirt as well. So apologies for that. No winners last weekend, although the more observant of us would have seen Chucksanike miss a first half penalty for Crewe, which could very well have gone on and seen them claim all 3 points. However, it wasn't to be. We could strike it down as unlucky, but if we can't, I guess pick a scorer to score from 12 yards, and we get everything we deserve, which was nothing. So Chucksanike well and truly on the naughty list for the remaining weeks. Let's sit and watch him score about 2 or 3 this weekend. Despite the house move, still plenty of opportunity to have a look at the anytime goal scorer coupon, particularly in Leagues 1 and 2. A trio, I think, of midfield runners this weekend. We will start off in League 2. Had a big look at Plymouth. I think it's impossible to ignore their run to the verge of the playoffs. They had a really good week last week. I took a closer look at it on my blog, and I'll put a link just below, and if you fancy reading some stuff, then by all means head to there. It's always good if you see a side like Plymouth, a recent resurgence in form, perhaps producing results out of the ordinary. Take a close look, see whether we can put some reasoning behind it, and then see whether they're a backable proposition going forward. And that's what I've done this week. So a really good week for Plymouth. Like we said, they stuck 4 past Fleetwood, stuck 5 past Morecambe a couple of days later as well. Beat Dagenham away from home just before that as well. What might the reasons be? Well, Paul Wootton could be a good reason. 36 years old now, Paul Wootton. Been out the side since about October, but came into that back three for the Dagenham game. In the last 2 games, though, that Fleetwood and Morecambe game, been sat in front of the Plymouth back three. I guess doing what 400 appearances for Plymouth, Paul Wootton gives you. Plenty of talking, plenty of organising, providing a really positive influence on what we still might consider to be a young Plymouth side. So a key tool in John Sheridan's armoury there. They brought in Matthew Parsons. He's playing left wing back. A really nice balance with the wing backs, with Double Berry on the right hand side. Them two both had a good week of anyone in that Plymouth side. Both getting forward, causing opposing fullbacks some problems. There's some more beneficiaries, I think, of the way that Plymouth are playing at the moment. I'll talk about those in a second. But let's consider their opponents, Bristol Rovers. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're instantly opposable. They're playing well. 3 clean sheets in their last 4. Look like one of those sides that are just going to do enough to stave off the threat of relegation. Should have a good chance, I think, towards the end of the season to build up a bit of form. However, just looks like a good matchup for me, this Plymouth game, for Plymouth this weekend. I'm going to put up Conor Hourihane, who I think, like I say, a beneficiary of Paul Wootton maybe coming into the side. He's Plymouth captain, so maybe benefiting from a bit less responsibility in terms of organising and taking responsibility. He's got someone there who can. He's already talked about in the news that I've seen this week of looking up to someone like Paul Wootton as someone who's having a positive influence, and it's going to allow someone like Conor Hourihane to, I guess, just express himself, get forward a bit more, worry less about what's going on behind him, and he did that to good effect in the game against Fleetwood, where he scored, and he's creating. He's been on the end of a couple of chances in games ever since. He goes off at 7-1. He scored on his last visit to the Memorial Stadium, which is another thing in our favour as well. So he makes a good selection, a good solid selection at a nice price for the first leg of the Anytime treble. Next off, we're going to head to Morecambe. Morecambe against Southend. Not a particularly attractive game to enthuse about. Both sides bottom of the form table. Morecambe without a winning 10. I think a big run of non-clean sheets in that run as well. Southend, Phil Brown, really got to start worrying about that Plymouth train coming up behind him and stealing that last playoff space in League 2. They're without a winning 8. Just 2 clean sheets in that run as well. Like I say, both teams bottom of the form table. I'm going to put up a player here that is in poor form. I don't really want to put up, but a wiser, more astute punter than me once said, if you back things at the right price, then the results will take care of themselves. And this very much looks like an opportunity here. I'm talking about Kevin Hurst, 11 goals in 34 games, on a wretched run of form though at the moment, without a goal in his last 9. I suppose that ties into Southend's poor run as well. Been in and out of the side. Well, he didn't make the starting 11 in the defeat at Northampton a couple of weeks ago. But like I say, on a particularly bad run of form, I'm not particularly in the habit of backing teams that are on poor runs of form. I'm not in the habit of backing players that are on bad runs of form. I'm not in the habit of backing corner takers either, which is what Kevin Hurst is. However, 6-1, which looks way too big for me, for a player with that goal scoring record this season. Have a look at Odds Checker, see the relative prices all the other bookmakers are offering. I think that's a really good chance to get involved. Let me know if you think it's a good price or not, because I'm convinced this is a good price, particularly when we factor in, if you like systems, and I like systems, when you factor in that he made 20 appearances on loan at Morecambe a couple of years ago. That's in our favour as well. And he scored in the reverse fixture, which I think was a 3-1 defeat. I think Morecambe won 3-1. But Kevin Hurst got the one for Southend. All of those things to me point to a player that should probably be a lot shorter than 6-1. But if we keep it quiet, we can get a few pence on at 6-1. So he heads up a pretty confident selection for the second leg of the Anytime treble. For the third selection then, our trio of midfield runners will head to Port Vale. We'll head to Vale Park in League One. We said a lot about Port Vale last week. Conceded another 3 against Wolves. That was their 5th time in the last 8 games that they've conceded 3 goals. I've been a good advocate. I've been a key advocate for Mickey Adams, which is something I probably didn't say when he was in charge of Coventry. But I think this Port Vale side have done well this season. Just worrying signs that they may be in for a difficult end to the season. In about 10th or 11th place, but I'm pretty sure they're closer to the relegation zone than they are to the playoffs. They only play 2 of the bottom half sides at home throughout the course of the rest of the season, which is a worrying thing for them. And they face one of those sides at home this weekend. So Carlisle head to Vale Park this weekend. Carlisle epitomise those sides, I think, in the bottom half of League One, who just can't get a run together of good results. They've got form lines with wins, draws, lots of defeats on. The sides that have managed to put a run together, you talk about Sheffield United, you probably include Graham Wesley's Stevenage in that rule as well. They're the ones that are finding that they can quickly move up the table. There's no end of sides in the bottom half of League One that are pretty much as bad as each other, but any one of them puts a run together, and they could find themselves out of danger. Carlisle, maybe they might be one of those sides that could do it. A really good 0-0 draw. They restricted Brentford to 0 goals last week, which is a good result when you consider the run that Brentford were on. They were unlucky the game before that. Rotherham got a last-minute winner, so they got nothing out of that game. They beat Coventry. They beat Bradford before that. There's a couple of other wins smattered in the form table as well. What I like about this bet is they continue to score goals. So just before that Brentford game last weekend, scored in 7 consecutive games, scored a couple in a few of those as well. So a side that continue to be a goal threat regardless of where they are in the table. I think they're just a couple of points off the bottom 4. We put him up a couple of weeks ago, Brad Potts. I'm going to stick him up again. He's going to go off at 8-1, which again is another good price. Regrettable that we have to put him up at half the price we did a couple of weeks ago, and he hasn't scored in the meantime, but still a decent midfield runner, still getting on the end of a few chances, still making late intelligent runs into the box, and shooting from distance as well, which I saw he did a couple of times last week. Still just about value enough for me. I guess the key thing here for me is the opposition, that the opposition don't look like they're in any mood to stop conceding goals. So we'll stick up Brad Potts, 8-1 as Carlisle head to Port Vale. The second one, Kevin Hurst, not in a good run of form, but a decent price as Southend head to Morecambe, and Conor Hourihane for a Plymouth side that is going great guns as they head to Bristol Rovers this weekend. Whatever you're back in, hopefully have a profitable weekend. I'll see you next week when hopefully I'll be in a new house. Hopefully I'll design some nice little studio for me to present in. So we get rid of the poor lighting, get rid of the shirts that haven't been ironed, and we'll strip much fitter for next week anytime. No, whatever you are back in, have a profitable weekend, and I'll see you on the other side.